This week I got a question from someone who saw on my Instagram feed that we've just been through a pretty major storm here. And she was asking what it's like to go through a storm with a child like Esmé and what my concerns are when dealing with a power outage. Being in any way trapped or isolated somewhere with Esmé is not a good feeling. I know how quickly something can go wrong. Last Friday, I was in bed with Esmé sleeping on me in the middle of the afternoon during her nap time. And there was kind of this lovely thunderstorm going on. And I generally like thunderstorms, so I didn't think anything of it. I was kind of enjoying it. And all of a sudden, it started getting really nasty. And there was just this sound that was like, it was like a train went by our house. Esmé slept through it, but when Esmé eventually woke up and we looked outside, our neighborhood had been pretty well impressively damaged. I found myself in our house after the big part of the storm came through. There was a second kind of round that got pretty violent, not as bad. And I put Esmé in the safest place that I could imagine in the house without bringing her into the basement. And I set up a bag with her emergency meds in it so that I knew if we needed to run quickly, like if the window blew open in our living room, that I could grab her and grab the bag and have what we would need immediately. I did take out power for the better part of 2 days. We do have an emergency generator here at our house, but that did not work. So when the power goes out and the generator doesn't click on, there's all sorts of bits and pieces that I have to start thinking about with feeling like we aren't totally isolated. So the first thing being, can an emergency vehicle get to us, and can we get out? Is my cell phone battery fully charged so that I can make calls? Those are all the kinds of things that I immediately have to start thinking about. Sort of next level stuff is she has medications that are really important. Her anticonvulsant is a refrigerated medication. So it can't be kept warm for long periods of time. Otherwise, it loses its efficacy over time. She has her blended diet. We have to mix up food. We mix it up for like 24 hours. And, if that food is spoiling, if there's no option for takeout or for eating out or for anything like that. It's not just a matter of not being able to entertain her or trying to find a way to make it fun the way that my parents did. It was like we were camping in the house, Now it happens that the first night without power, her extremely dedicated nurse was on, and she actually wound up, we thought the power would come on during her shift, but it didn't. So she spent the night on a beanbag on the floor of Esmé's room, keeping an eye on her, because you can't not have the ability to observe her directly for extended periods of time. There's just kind of extra stuff to be thinking about. In the case of having a child who's Esmé's age, who has literally no ability to protect herself, up to and including calling for help. And certainly, fortunately, in this situation, the damage was very, very localized. So although our neighborhood was really bad, and I thought, oh my God, I can't imagine what the roads will look like. Once you drove a mile away from our house, there was nothing. They just had a bad rainstorm. So I was able to, we were able to get out of the house and, go to public spaces and go to my parents and all of that stuff in the interim. So it wasn't as bad as it could have been by any means. I wish I could have turned it into a fun camping thing for her. I guess in some ways her nurse did, right? Being in there with her. I like to think that maybe Esmé thought that was fun.